Pretty simple video here. What I wanted to do was go over and read the newest blog from Juraj Slafkovsky, the first overall pick by the Montreal Canadiens. Now I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute. What do you mean? Now, if you have been paying attention to a lot of the Montreal Canadiens media scene, if you've been reading the articles, especially the ones that come out on LONH.com, you probably would have known that Juraj Slafkovsky has himself a blog that he updates once every few weeks, something like that? This was posted earlier this morning on NHL.com, Juraj's blog. Le blog de Juraj. A magical evening, 2 numbers in mind, and a plan for my little sister. This, of course, is in French, but I translated it to English via the Google machine, and I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go ahead and read the piece yourself. Juraj is a pretty smart dude, honestly. Like, from the way that he talks and the way that he writes and the way that he puts these blogs together, you can tell he's got a pretty good head in his shoulders, and the fact that he's been willing to do this over and over again throughout the season gives a lot of Canadiens fans some good insight as to what it is that he's thinking about stuff and how he feels about the situation going on in Montreal. You can even see in the opening paragraph here, "Hello everyone, I'm talking to you from my hotel room in Canada, a suburb of Ottawa. It's a fairly quiet town, so I have some time on my hands. We'll play our 80th game of the season against the Ottawa Senators. I can't believe how quickly time passes. We're already reaching the last days of this season." And yeah, that is pretty much how it goes, right? You're not in Ottawa, you're in the suburb of Ottawa, getting ready to play these games in the Canadian Tire Center that is so far removed from every other ounce of civilization during the Ottawa Senators home games. Speaking of which, the Canadiens will be playing off against that same Sens team later tonight, so we'll see what happens then. But Slafkovsky opens up this article by going back a few days. He wanted to revisit the date of April 9th, where he scored 3 goals for the first time in a game in the NHL in a convincing 9-3 win over the Flyers. He talked a lot about his hat trick after that match. At the time, though, he didn't realize what he had just experienced. It was such a magical moment. I still have images of this meeting. I can still hear the cries of the fans at the Bell Center. I was so happy. I played in front of my 3 best friends from Slovakia. My father, Juraj, my mother, Gabriella, and my sister, Lucia, had just left Montreal. I saw the faces of my old friends again, Benny, Marian, and Roman. They were overjoyed. They no longer understood what they had just seen. I was excited that they were there in person. They weren't just watching the game on TV. And that's cool. It's nice and kind of heartwarming to see that Juraj Slafkovsky is still as in tune with his friends from home as he was when he was, of course, back home. And being able to fly your guys out, just hang out with them, have them watch your hockey games live, and then score a hat trick, your very first in the NHL in front of them. That's got to be the biggest BDE move that you could go out there and do. So Slafkovsky, he's got all the bragging rights now in front of his friend group, doesn't he? He says this as well, that after the match I ate with my friends at the restaurant, there were also a few teammates from the team. It was a very pleasant evening. We were traveling the next morning to New York, so I had to sleep in too. Unlike my nap before the game, I had no trouble sleeping. I took some medicine since I was a little sick, I had lost my voice, I was suffering from a cold, and I had a runny nose. Nothing too serious. So I don't know if that's a lost in translation kind of thing. It says that because we were traveling the next morning to New York, I had to sleep in. So I think he probably means that they had to get up early. But Slafkovsky then talks about how he got some sleep, he got his rest because, hey, we had already discussed in the last video that Slafkovsky was sick on the night of his hat trick and he was not really feeling all too good. So the fact that he still went out there and scored a hat trick and he had no sleep as well, we were kind of joking around saying, hey, this is the key for Slafkovsky to start scoring goals. He's just got to not sleep before the games. But, of course, healthy body's got a healthy body. He did his part in forcing a recovery. With 3 goals against the Philadelphia Flyers, I now find myself with 19 goals. I don't like talking about my personal stats too much. I've already said it. I want to win. I want to help my team. But I won't lie. Yes, my goal is to reach 20 goals. I still have 3 games left to reach the plateau of 20. I would find it good to finish with 20. I can say the same thing about the 50 points. I have 48 after 78 games. These would be 2 interesting sets. At the start of the season, I wasn't heading for a season like this. I probably already surpassed many people's expectations, but I don't want to slow down. And that is true as well. The fact that Juraj Slafkovsky is at 19 goals and 48 points is a pretty significant feat, but you have to remember that half of the production that he has gotten pretty much has come in, the past few weeks? He's been so good as of late that if you cut away the beginning of his season, everything that he had started out with, Slafkovsky has been scoring pretty much at a point-per-game pace the past 2 or 3 weeks or so. And he has definitely shattered so many people's expectations, myself included. So it's good that he's able to acknowledge that, saying, yeah, I mean, I want to get to 20 goals. I want to get to 50 points. I really did break a lot of people's expectations, and I want to prove that I'm capable of more. So, Juraj Slafkovsky, good on him, man. Really, really good on him. There are 3 games left, I'm pretty sure, 2 against the Red Wings and 1 against the Ottawa Senators. Hopefully, Slafkovsky is able to go out there and best himself. Next up on the chopping block here of the article, he talks about visiting family. He goes into a pretty big thing about his sister and his father as well. Honestly, it's pretty, personal, so I kind of would like you to read that on your own time. I feel kind of weird talking about that here on the video. I mean, the guy's 20 years old, right? It's kind of weird talking about a guy's family in this intricate detail. But he does talk about the idea of his parents moving to Montreal, and he says, I don't think they would move here, but they'd come here even more often. I don't know if I could take care of my sister perfectly. She'll be 15. She's no longer a child. I'd like to help her, but sometimes I have trouble taking care of myself, so we'll see whether or not that works. There also was a conversation at the very end of this article, and it's the headline. It's what I wanted to talk about in the title and the thumbnail of this video. Juraj Slafkovsky speaks out about the arrival of Lane Hutson. Finally, I just learned of Lane Hutson's signing. He has great talent. He has crazy skills. He's so good. I watched many of his highlights over the last 2 seasons. I don't know him much on a personal level yet. I spoke to him during the development camps only and after the draft at the Bell Center. I will now have time to get to know him. I watched the USA's game against Slovakia at the World Junior Championships, but I also followed it during the World Championship last spring. He scored some great goals for the USA. Another good young guy joining our team. It's good news. We'll talk soon. Now, I don't know if the "we'll talk soon" is Juraj Slafkovsky talking to the audience that's reading this article, or if he's talking about Lane Hutson specifically, but you gotta remember, both these guys were 2022 draftees, Slafkovsky first overall, Hutson taken somewhere in the second round, but these guys both had themselves an opportunity to get to know each other and chat it up a little bit during that time period. Of course, alongside of the other Montreal Canadiens guys, you had Philip Meshar and a few other names tossed in there, but hey, Juraj Slafkovsky saying that he watches a bunch of Lane highlights on social media, and he's saying that Hudson's a pretty good player. Yeah, I'd agree. I think I'd do the same thing. Just going out there the rabbit hole and watching all the Lane Hutson highlights that you can find and giving yourself reasons to talk about him. That's kind of exactly what I do now that I think about it, considering this is my career. But either way, I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go ahead and read the rest of Juraj Slafkovsky's comments, his blog. He does this every so often, and it's always a really interesting thing to read. I've never made a video about this actually until now, just because, you know, the catchy tagline of him talking about Hutson is a pretty attractive way to garner an audience. So if you're a fan of Juraj Slafkovsky and the Montreal Canadiens, let me know your thoughts in the comment section as to his insight as to everything involved and how he feels about Lane Hutson heading over to the Habs. Slafkovsky said it himself, man, another young guy heading over to this team. Maybe that first-line power play unit in the future really is going to feature no Mike Matheson. Who really knows? Slafkovsky, Newhook, Doc, Caulfield, and Hutson. Ooh, that sounds pretty good. Thoughts in the comment section below about Juraj Slafkovsky and his blog. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.